I trust this will be an interesting session because I find it very unique that we have the three leading operators here in this panel and share their insights. So we have Åsa from Telenor Sweden, we have Lina from Telia, and we have Johan, who is on home turf here from Tele2. So over the last years, MEF has been active in ESG matters. And why? Simply because we thought 5 years ago that it was time to act. Simply because T from Telecom is in the ICT sector, and the ICT sector is proven to be as much polluting as the whole airline industry. So we had to take the responsibility as MEF as well. And therefore we started out, first of all, with drafting what we call a climate guide, which is listed on our website and can be downloaded for everybody to look into. But also we started to share expert insights. We did that with a lot of webinars in the beginning, but then we also introduced an award series. So the MEF awards, the MEFies annually, got the first entries 4 years ago, won by Vodafone. Thereafter, it was Fairphone, followed by Cinch. That was very nice. And last year, I was very happy to also see that Telenor was stepping up and won the MEFies Award for Sustainability and ESG this January in February in Barcelona. So here we are with this panel session. I find it unique, and you heard some of the speakers mentioning that it was rather cool. Yeah, it's cool to be here in this office, to be honest, and thanks for sponsoring. But also the temperature here in the Nordics was really cooler, coming from Amsterdam. Yeah, some of us from MEF from London. London had a record yesterday of 35 degrees. 35 degrees in May. That's not only the highest temperature, 35 measure, but also the highest lowest temperature was above 21 degrees. And then you can say, well, that is London. And the last record was in 1944, about 80 years ago. But the same records yesterday were measured in more than 200 cities in Europe. And for the first time, we heard the word heat dome. Yeah. So the heat dome was something we knew over the last years, merely in the States. They were stationary, high pressure, high temperature areas where the jet stream has no influence on. And this is the first time really that we see this appearing here in Europe. So I think this is a nice bridge to the E from environment. We'll follow the E, the S, and the G, and thereafter we'll have a bit of an interaction session. So when I did a bit of a ChatGTP session yesterday and asking who is the best in ESG in the Nordics, I must congratulate all of you because in the different areas you all seems to be shining. Yeah. Well done, well done. But it's also nice that we have here, of course, DNA and some other operators that you can take away, I think, the key learnings and the activities which the panelists here bring to the table. So it's difficult to give the male the first word, but when it comes to sustainability, it seems that you really do a good job. Can you comment on that?
No, but I think we do. And I guess you can look at it from multiple different perspectives, but one is obviously different types of awards and external recognition and measurements of different sorts. And in the past couple of years, Tele2 has scored really, really well, including being named the Europe's climate leader by Financial Times at 2 times. We've been named Sweden's most sustainable company by Time magazine. We have received CDP A score for climate for 4 consecutive years. The list goes on, and I'm not going to sit here and brag forever, but sure, we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, and in your role, you're responsible as ESVP for sustainability and communications. Where's your key focus on? Is it on sustainability, or is it more on social or governance? Where you focus?
For those of you who follow Tele2's destiny, you may have noticed in the past couple of weeks that there is a few things to do also on the communications side, but I'm trying to split my time. So generally over a year, it's I would say it's 50-50.
Yeah. Okay. And if we stay with let's say environment, anything from the Telenor side you can add?
Yeah, of course. There's a lot to add. When it comes to environment, I think we have, as I believe you guys have as well, really been focusing a lot on scope 1 and 2 and trying to reduce our impact there, so our own emissions. So we purchase green electricity to our own operations. So that is like one key activity that everyone can do to really reduce their impact in scope 1 and 2. But then in addition to that, we have also modernized the network recently, right? We have shut down 2G and 3G and also then modernized with a completely new 5G network. And that also comes with climate benefits, right? Because then we have more modern equipment that is also much more efficient and that we also can steer much better. So, for example, just to give you a concrete example, during nighttime, when the demand of our services is lower, then we can reduce the capacity in the network. So then we don't need to use as much energy and electricity. And that has, of course, good financial benefits, but also good emission benefits. So we have done quite a lot on scope 1 and 2. And then I think the challenge for all of us is probably scope 3, right? Where also the big part of our emissions are at. So I think that is also why it's nice to meet in this forum, because then I understand this is really the ecosystem for telcos, right? So we are all in the same value chain and we need to help out taking this responsibility throughout. And I think that is also when it becomes more complex and more challenging.
Yeah, so you push also a bit of those activities in scope 3 towards your suppliers?
Yes, we do. So we have SBTIs, so science-based targets, where we have targets for our own sake, but also targets on our suppliers. So one of our SBTI targets was that 66% of our suppliers should also have SBTIs by end of 2025. And we were actually, for Telenor Sweden, we reached more than 75%. So more than 3/4 of our supplier base have SBTIs. So that was actually a great achievement that we did, where my team, the sustainability team, worked very closely with the sourcing and contract owners. So it was truly a teamwork. And that was like the first step. But now we have a new target where we also want to see emissions actually going down in our supply chain. So the first step was to set targets, and now we want to see the actual emissions going down. So that's a natural second step.
Yeah, and Johan mentioned 97%, I think, scope 1 and 2 reduction already, and we're not in 2030 yet. How is that with Telenor?
Yeah, we're at the same. I think.
Same levels, yeah. And Telia?
Yeah, I think you have a little bit better level comparing. But I don't know, are you working with, you're talking about Sweden only, because we have more group data. Yeah. But like you, 90% of our emissions sits in our supply chain. But when it comes to our own operation, we are 100% renewable energy because we pushed and worked a lot with our renewable energy strategy. So we work, like you, a lot with our suppliers and with sourcing. I mean, it's in our contract. We educate and talk with our salespeople. So this is very much like not just like a little teamwork, it's a huge teamwork. And 61% of our suppliers now have science-based targets. I think you have 74, right? Or something like that. Or yeah, you're a little bit higher. Yeah. But so we are working a lot with this, of course. But I think it's also a challenge, of course, because it's not I mean, it's a value chain problem. Like you pointed out, it's not, we can't just we alone can't work with this. We as an industry need to put the same requirements on our value chain and the partners, because usually we share those as well.
Yeah. Education is something of interest. What we see in Asia is that the Chinese operators are in fact already educating the consumers to offload less images, as an example. Why? Because the warehousing of all those data centers, all the data we create with sending each other pictures, images, videos, needs to be stored and cooled. It takes a lot of energy in those, I would say, activities. The consumer in Europe, I have not seen any, let's say, activities towards the consumer. Is that something on your radar? Would we do the same? Yeah. Wants to take the...
Well, to start with, you told me this example that you just mentioned the other day, and I hadn't heard about it, but I thought it was very interesting. It's a bit like, reduce your water use type of campaigns. So that's really something to look into. I found that interesting. When it comes to the consumer, we know, especially in Sweden, you put high value on sustainability, but it is a bit trickier to have the conversation about sustainability with consumers. That is at least my experience. I don't know if yours differ. It will be interesting to hear. But when we talk to other business customers, this is very, high up on the agenda, because just like you said, putting pressure on your suppliers, they put pressure on us, and they, a lot of our customers put very high standards. But the consumer is trickier. They tend to say something in surveys, how much they're ready to pay for, sustainable operations and sustainable products, etc. But when they are in the store, the price seems to win anyways. Now that could also be because we are very good, all of us, but that is at least my experience, that the conversation about sustainability in telecom towards consumers is a bit tricky. It's easier when it comes to, I assume, textile, for instance, because consumers understand what the problem is with the textile production. But when it comes to telecom, it's a bit abstract to think of the energy consumption in some kind of network somewhere. How does that affect my use? It is harder to understand why one operator would be more sustainable than the other. That's what I think.
Yes, we have been educating the consumers to use more and faster and not less. Okay, let's. Is there anything else you want to mention on your activities on sustainability before we move to the social part of things? No?
No, I just want to add on to that because you talked about B2C, but when we also did like a study on B2B, because I mean, basically, do our B2B customers also want this, because if we can support them, but we also discovered that they don't always ask for it. Or, I mean, it's usually the price that unfortunately decides. So, yes. And I think this is about education as well. If we can maybe educate them to always ask for the energy efficiency in the product or that we are offering to them, they will probably also see the value in that.
Yeah. Thanks.
We actually do that proactively via a tool that we have that's called Climate Impact Tool, where we support our customers even beforehand, even before we close the deal often, that these are the products you want to order to deliver this service. The emissions from those will be this, and that. X% comes from the build out, X% comes from the production, etc. And that is for customers that sets really high standards and really want to know this. They appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, but that's also depends on your consumer offering of handsets, for example. Yeah, if you have refurbished handsets in the stores or not, or are you promoting it online? So that is maybe the first step. But I understand that the business cases are not always so easy to implement, is it?
Sorry, come again.
I said that the business case for refurbished handsets, etc., is not so easy to create as an operator.
No, well, not towards B2C at least. It seems to be a bit tricky when you compare. I mean, both our own options and what we sell, and when we look at what other operators are selling as well, the price difference is not that much between a refurbished phone and a brand new phone of the same model, which of course makes it slightly harder for the customer to choose the refurbished one. When it comes to B2B, though, it's a completely different story, I would say. There we have a fast-growing business model that is based on mobile as a service, for instance, where we take back phones after the leasing contract and often supply refurbished phones from the very beginning, because that is something that has an increasing demand as well, also from bigger corporations, that they want to have refurbished phones, mainly for sustainability reasons, but also for financial reasons.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Let's further build a little bit on the education. Telenor has won the award this year, the MEF award, dealing with a educational program for children, which you have created together with UNICEF and Grameenphone. Can you explain a little bit what you did, and is the program rolled out further in other countries other than Bangladesh? Where are we on that?
Yeah, so Telenor has a strategic partnership both with UNICEF and also with Plan International. And the focus has mainly been on protecting children. And there has been different initiatives in different countries where we operate. So there has been initiatives in Grameenphone, as you mentioned, but also in other Asian countries. For example, we did one a few years ago that I thought were quite cool. In Pakistan, where a lot of children are born without being registered with authorities that they do exist. They don't get a personal number, so they don't really exist in the society. And then we could, through our services, help them to digitally get a passport, a digital passport, and then exist in societies and give them all the rights connected to being a citizen in society. So there is quite a lot of different initiatives ongoing since Telenor has operations both in Nordic countries, but also then in Asian countries. And in Telenor Sweden, we have specifically worked with something called Nätprat. And that is about that we provide internet access, right? And that comes with great possibilities like access to information, news, and so forth. But it also comes with risks, especially for young people. So therefore, we want to take our responsibility and try to protect them and try to prepare them for a digital life. So that is what Nätprat is all about. And that has been so successful, I must say. So we are cooperating with Plan, and we have done many things, but just to mention a few, we have developed school materials that is being shared with Swedish schools, and now more than a third of all Swedish schools are using this material. And it's highly appreciated among teachers because it's often quite difficult to ask the right questions. That's what adults feel like. I want to know what my kids or my pupils in school are doing online, but I don't really know which questions to ask, how to get close with them on this topic. We are not that experienced as adults asking those type of questions. So we really want to encourage this dialogue because we believe that if kids have a continuous dialogue with adults about life online, then it's much easier for kids to reach out to an adult if something scary happens online. But if you never talk about life online, then the boundary to talk to someone if something scary happens, it's quite high.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, and it's very, I would say, a hot topic when we look at social media and the impact it can have on the life of young adults. Lina, I think you are also working on educational projects.
Yeah.
And you take the other 30%?
Yeah, exactly. I think we all are working. Sorry.
Wonderful.
I don't want to sound too repetitive here, but before, usually we were responsible for that the connectivity worked, right? We only looked at the quality of connectivity, but now we can see that expectations are increasing. And expectations, not just that we deliver connectivity, but the expectations on us, how the connectivity is being used, what the children and young people or vulnerable groups are being exposed to, and how we are educating them, and how we are working with them, and how we are safeguarding them. So there's a lot of, how to put it, like responsibilities. So, by law, it's not on us, but on society and on our customers. They expect us to take this role and work with these issues. And we can do this with different tools. Education, which we all are working with, is one thing. Bringing awareness is another thing. And also influencing and working together with the tech platforms. For example, because a lot of the issues happens in the tech platforms, TikTok, YouTube, SoMe, gaming. Just get me wrong, I love those. My kids do play as well, but it comes with risks, right? So we also have a dialogue with those as well. For example, I'm going to go to Brussels next 2 weeks from now, talk to Roblox, for example, to discuss what we can do together and what they are doing with its specific issues as well. So I think that's important to kind of distinguish. We control the connectivity. We can block, we can see some children's sexual abuse material and other harmful material, but we can't go into the tech platforms. But what we can do is that we can build resilience, as you also mentioned, and educate and bring awareness for young people and parents. And we also, like you, have a lot of different programs depending which country. But what we are moving away from now, when we talk about skills learning, we are moving away from only talking about grooming and risks to also talk about opportunities. And AI skills is such an opportunity for young people and parents as well to understand and be part of. So, for example, in Estonia, we are working. We have an AI literacy school program because we don't want young people to fall behind. We want them to be included, be part of the digitalization. And of course, I remember when I joined Telia 2 years ago, I said everyone are part of digitalization in our countries. Yes, but now we can see there's a difference between the skills that they have. And AI will be the differentiator, I think, how good you are able to see the risks and opportunities with AI.
Yeah. I think for kids, the age you mentioned, your kids, our kids, they got their first phone, but this is already a bit ago, when they were 12, yeah? And this is referring then to age and age verification, etc. There has been a UNICEF conference lately on child protection, on online guidance. Anyone of you have been there?
UNICEF, no.
The one in Italy?
Right.
Oh yeah,
I was there last week.
Very memorable
I saw that.
event.
Good morning. Okay, but tell
Everyone
me,
saw that.
what is
Sorry.
your key takeaway? Because it is nice to hear us, let's say, from the operator environment. But what's the take of UNICEF when it comes to age, when it comes to screen time? What's your takeaway from that?
Multiple takeaways. Was super interesting actually. When it comes to, we talked a bit about when it comes to social media and age, for instance. We did talk about the Australian ban on social media for, I believe it's under 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in Australia, they've banned the social media for people under 16. And I mean, from a political perspective, you can see why that makes sense. People experience this problem, parents are concerned, and it sounds like an easy solution. And while UNICEF are very clear that they're not taking any political stance in any kind of direction, their researchers were quite clear that such a ban is completely meaningless. It could even be harmful, because what happens is not that kids say, okay, now that's the rules, then I will not go online or find forums to engage with my friends. What they will do is they will instead find unregulated platforms that they will use instead, where we have even less control. So that was one takeaway, that those type of bans are rarely successful. Another thing that I've found interesting, it's not really news perhaps, but I think it's worth reminding ourselves as adults every now and then that kids don't see that, we live in this physical world where we sit now in this room, and then there's something online. Those two worlds are as real. For us, perhaps, I mean, quite a few of us are quite addicted to our screens as well, but I think many of us can separate those worlds in a way. But for kids growing up with a phone from age, I don't know, those two worlds are as real. So you also need to understand that, I believe, when you're talking about bans, etc., it's pretty much like, for an adult, it may seem like, okay, but just throw your phone away for a couple of hours, or, don't use this platform. But for a kid, that is equal to a curfew, basically, in the physical world. So that was also an interesting takeaway, or at least a reminder to ourselves.
Yeah, please.
And also, just to build upon what you're saying, I think because we are a bit skeptical as well, just as UNICEF and many of those other organizations are. Because just as I said in the beginning, having access to internet and platforms, it also gives young people access to information and news, and helping them find their identity, and a lot of things that are very important to young people. So also, if we would not let them have that access, it does something with them, right? And in addition to that, a lot of people don't really think that those age limit will work in practice. It will be probably quite easy to circumvent them anyhow. So there is a risk that this is more of symbol politics than actually solving the problem. The problem is that it is bad content on many of those platforms, and there are bad algorithms, and there is never-ending scrolling flows. So there's content and functionalities in these platforms. That is where the problem is at, and that is the problem that needs to be solved.
Yeah, and just to add on that, I think that's a third thing that we talked quite a lot about in Italy last week, in that the concept of screen time is not very helpful, to be honest, and that has been a very much ongoing debate in Sweden, and I assume in most countries for the past couple of years, about screen time. And as screen time as a concept is not really helpful, in the sense that it equals 45 minutes of doom scrolling and 45 minutes FaceTime conversation with your grandma. So are they equally bad? Most people would say no, but in terms of screen time, they're the same. So that was also one of the points from the researchers at UNICEF, that it is really the content, what's going on the other side of the screen, not the fact that you're looking at the screen. That's what matters.
It's that and the AI algorithms that you talked about, but also that you can actually be groomed. I mean, you also have to, when you think about that, it's not just, yes, you can make friends, but a lot of people who want to harm your child, they will go to where your child are. They don't go to the playground, they go there online. And that's something because we work a lot with on ECPAT together, and we work with childhood, for example, on children's sexual abuse material, and also to understand where they are being groomed. I mean, young people, and it's usually on the platforms. So that's also another dimension that we can't just forget about because it's there and it's happening as well.
Yeah, and to build on that, I would say blocking a certain content for children is, of course, one of the key roles, I would say, as a communication platform provider. There are, let's say, the list from national police, from Interpol. How are you working on that at Tele2?
So we do use the lists from Interpol and the police, as you mentioned, but we're also collaborating with a Canadian organization called Project Arachnid, who basically crawls the internet for child sexual abuse material, and provide us with URLs basically that we then block. And in Sweden and the Baltics last year, we blocked more than 7 million attempts to reach child sexual abuse material in our network. I made a quick calculation just before here, and unless I'm mistaken, I think it's something like every 4.5 seconds. So we blocked quite a few attempts during this conversation. It's an insane number, and we've talked a bit about that because it's an important, it's a cornerstone of our strategy, but it's one that is quite hard to put a target on. Are we aiming for 9 million blockings next year? Is that good or bad? We don't know. We can just conclude that since we started doing this, it has increased quite dramatically every single year.
Sorry, you go.
No, we can also just add that the Swedish government have also given the Swedish police authority an inquiry to look into how operators can take even bigger responsibility in potentially blocking even more sites. So we are following that closely together as well. So there is a lot going on this topic right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to stab you here, but I'm a bit curious since you're next to me. We have said publicly that we will support this.
But we have talked together that we will all support it, but we don't need to go out publicly.
Okay, that's good.
So that happened before
we all want
that
the same
press
thing.
release, actually. So and we have meetings with the police force and ACT and discussing. I actually talked to the police last week about this, and it's only. I mean, we're gonna work with this together. But at the moment, they just got extra resources to look into this. It is a little bit diffuse, but I just want to add to, because we love that you go public with your data, and we also started to estimate our data. We are bigger than you are. So in Sweden, we are blocking about 10 million. We estimate that we're blocking about 10 million. That's, if you think about the scale, that's almost where we are 11 million in Sweden. So imagine like 10 million searches on CISA material per year. That's kind of, it's crazy. So that's the number that we have in Sweden only. And we also want to say on this issue, we collaborate a lot, and we had meetings with your team. And so we are also looking into Arachnid, which we think is beautiful, because it's one thing to block CISA material, but it's another thing to take it down. So I think, and that's also a very important with AI and a deep fake. You can now see that this kind of material are spreading a lot. So there's a increase in the recent year, 400% increase of CSAM material. So one picture then just goes out in the web like that. And it's so fast, it goes so fast. So that's why I think it's even more important that we find this innovative and fast tools like Arachnid that can actually take down the pictures from the web as well. And I do want to congratulate you. You were one of the first, but we will also work with this now. So yeah.
Boom. No, that's real good. But it's also nice to see that you go out of the box. And we have net number here with high risk number ranges. I think maybe we should take as an initiative as MEF to also go further on the URL exchange database, because you are very advanced here in the Nordics, what I see. And if a small country, with all respect, as Sweden, has already so many wrong attempts which you block, can you imagine how much it will be European-wide? Massive. Yeah. Okay. I think we have to move on to the last capital, which is G. Give me 1 minute. Is that okay? Good. Governance. It's a good topic. Equality, gender pay. I understand that half of this management staff layer at Tele2 is female. Is that correct? Roughly?
Close to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What we see is that, for example, Vodafone Group has Margarita, previous CFO, stepped up to become a group CEO. We have seen that at Telenor Group as well, Benedict, coming from the bank, finance background. But that is top level. Yeah. How is that with Telia?
We have a target to reach 50-50 by 2028. We started 39% women, females, 2024, and now we are at 45. So we are really working towards this target for the management and leaders under management, because we think it's important to start changing the top. But we also have pay gender gap target. I don't know if you have that. Yeah, you do. Yeah. And we want to close that. We have an adjusted one and then a raw one, of course. But the adjusted one we want to close. I mean, basically equal pay for equal work, right? So that's something we want to close by 2028. And we are in a good phase of, we're starting to do that as well.
Thanks. Sounds good.
Yes.
On track.
We're on track.
Telenor, last words on this?
Yeah, there's a lot to say about governance, and diversity, equity, and inclusion is one key topic, but also there's topics around data governance, privacy, trust.
GDPR.
Yeah, and I think what all of those topics has in common is that it's all about trust, right? It's trust for our customers, it's trust among our employees, and so forth. So I think maybe we don't have time to deep dive into that this time, but we could save it for the next time, because the governance is really worth digging into.
Yes, let's do that next time.